before my seniors who are in AP and geography. Where are you? Come on, make some noise. That was lame. But I asked them if they wanted me to actually write something or to just jot down a few ideas and just go off like I normally do. I figured I might not say everything that way, so I decided to just go stream of consciousness. It's very James Joyce, it's all over the place, so try and bear with me. Prior to giving his lecture on religion and neurology in 1902, the American pragmatic philosopher William James said, actually I made that, I got that wrong, I said stated it. It is with no small amount of trepidation that I take my place behind this desk before this learned audience. I know now what he meant. Did that come out wrong? That's not wrong. I'm really sorry. We are here to celebrate you, of course, the Durant High School Honor Court, and your academic achievements at our inaugural Honor Court Banquet. And for this occasion, many of you have decided to honor me in turn by asking that I speak at this momentous event. I cannot begin to express my gratitude for this opportunity, but know that I feel fortunate, humbled, and blessed that so many of you thought of me. To be honest, I still don't think I deserve to stand here. There are many more members of our Durant family who have been changing lives for much longer than the 6 years I've been teaching, and I'm sure that their wisdom surpasses what little I've gleaned from life thus far. Plus, those of you who know me best, my former students, many of which I'm pleased to see among the faces, have left me guessing as to why you'd want to subject anyone to my madness. For those of you who never had me as a teacher, I apologize. I'll forewarn you that appearances are not what they seem. I am the contradiction of cool, the antithesis of awesome. I am not, as a feisty young student and her friend once called me, a hipster. I'm just a nerdy guy who loves his wife and likes to live out loud. So if this gets weird, which it probably will, just try to hang with me, and from these poorly cobbled words of common sense, please take what you can. Tonight I would like to speak with you about neither your college education nor your future careers. Instead, I invite all of you to take a step back and ask yourselves a question. What makes you happy? An honest answer isn't important right at this moment, but keep the question in mind. I know it may sound like an odd question to begin with, but that's just my thing, asking questions. People often say I have a philosophic mind or that I think deep thoughts. I just think I love questions. Questions are what drive us as human beings and should be embraced, but not for the answers they bring. Answers are often unsatisfactory and sometimes downright unsavory. This is where most people get bogged down and wrapped up with the answers. They let those answers define them and are afraid to question further, fearing it will bring more uncertainty. Meanwhile, they forget that the answers, even the ones we don't like or agree with, lead to more questions. But behind the veil of uncertainty lay possibility. So the first thing I would counsel all of you to do as you enter the world at large is to question everything. Socrates famously said the unexamined life is not worth living. With this advice in mind, go forth into life and let the questioning begin. Question your beliefs, your culture, your purpose, and everything in between. This is not meant to be an exercise in impetuousness and irreverence, but to examine every aspect of your existence in order to acquire knowledge and cultivate wisdom. Let your mind meander and mull over the questions that come to you. In order to do this well, though, you must become mindful human beings, and mindfulness begins when you stop taking life for granted. There isn't much that religion and science agree on, but I think there's one fact upon which both the theologian and astrophysicist would concur. Life is a miracle. A miracle that almost all of us don't even bother to acknowledge in our daily lives. Though we pay lip service to the idea of life being a miracle, and perhaps some of you even feel a tinge of indignation and say, "You're not about me." We all take it for granted, myself included. While the Industrial Revolution set forth a chain of events that brought great progress, prosperity, and promise, it was not without a cost. The cost was our humanity. In the last 50 years, this decline has been precipitous, especially in contemporary Western culture. And our restless haste to improve our lives, all I see is evidence of how we've actually eroded them. Though it has provided convenience, our slavish devotion to technological innovation is destroying what remains of social relationships. People think that they have hundreds, and in some cases thousands of friends on social networking sites, when in reality they have little or no contact with those people. And what contact they do have is mostly superficial, discussing what they purchased at the mall, who's dating whom, showing off their red Solo cups at the bonfire, and far too often the spreading of negativity and rumors. We've become a culture that sends text messages to tell each other happy birthday and Merry Christmas. In the past, these were celebrations where people gathered together and shared their lives in camaraderie. Now sometimes we can't even muster a 5-minute phone call from some of the most important people in our lives. Mark my words, in 10 years, the only people who will truly matter won't be the army of cyber friends, or even many of the people sitting around you. Quantity will eventually give way to quality, and the best relationships you will have will be with your family, your closest friends, and if you're lucky enough to work at a place like Durant, your coworkers. There is a line by one of my favorite bands that has been weighing heavily on my heart lately because it is both poignant and prescient. We live like penguins in the desert. Can you imagine it? Penguins completely out of their natural habitat, so lost and confused by the sun's parading glare and heat that they can't think straight, let alone work in their own community. Doomed to wander in their confusion, they will surely lose all sense of solidarity. The same loss of solidarity is happening in our own time, among our own species. But this is a byproduct of our technocratic culture. The more we plug in, the more disconnected and isolated we become. We must reverse this trend. The only recourse we have left, however, is to live authentic lives. You may be wondering, what is an authentic life? If you are, then the question's already begun, so you're off to a good start. By living authentically, you refuse to be defined by cultural convention. Our culture is so enthralled with labels that we're constantly trying to pigeonhole each other as black or white, Democrat or Republican, gay or straight, Christian or Muslim. What's wrong with being a human being? At the genetic level, we are all 99.4% the same. And yet we allow ourselves to be swept up and parsed out into convenient little packages that only cause strife among false factions. I personally refuse to be defined by anything other than my actions and my integrity. And I would admonish you to do the same. Don't be concerned with labels. They are nothing more than impediments to your personal progress. Let's return to the question of happiness. For those of you who can resolutely say, yes, I know what makes me happy, what is it that makes you feel that way? Have you ever discussed your level of happiness with friends and family? This is perhaps the biggest problem in our culture. We don't discuss big ideas on a daily basis. In lieu of intelligent discussions, we're more than happy to have the television and internet fill that gap in our lives with corporate propaganda that tells us our lives are incomplete and insufficient if we don't wear the right clothes or have the newest cell phone. Sorry to tell us that. Oh, sorry. There is so much more to life than America's insatiable lust for consumption. And yet the more we consume, whether it be products or resources, the more we are told we need. How much is enough? There's a question for you to contemplate. To paraphrase President Carter, who had the foresight to address this issue as we enter the age of mass consumption, we are becoming a people whose values are no longer defined by what we do, but by what we own. Whether intentionally or not, we define ourselves by the square footage of our houses, or the cars we drive, or the newest LED 3D television we just had to have. When will the madness stop? When will we admire people such as nurses, firefighters, and teachers for what they do, rather than professional athletes and pop culture celebrities who do nothing other than provide bad examples of how to live life? As millennials, the next great generation of Americans, are you okay with this? Or will you do something to change it? Though you may think I'm just some cranky curmudgeon who's railing against the system because of my paltry pay as a teacher, it could not be further from the truth. Money will not bring happiness. Ever. It is a means to an end. Period. Happiness begins by reveling in the miracle that is life. Find joy in the simple things you often overlook. Go for a walk and let yourself enjoy nature and appreciate it for what it is. Better yet, go with a friend or a family member, and don't take your cell phones with you. Don't worry, kids. You won't die if you're like, oh. And when you go, talk to one another of your dreams and how you can help one another achieve them. Discuss how you can contribute to making this world a better place. As individuals, we often feel powerless in that regard, but even small changes in our lives can have massive ramifications for the future, especially when we work collectively. If you ask me, the secret to happiness is wisdom. The first step on the path of true wisdom is the willingness to admit and accept your own ignorance. Ignorance is not necessarily a bad thing. Willful ignorance is harmful. But ignorance in the etymological sense simply means to not know. Think about how much you know. And believe me, many of you in this audience have already accumulated a great deal of knowledge through hard work and dedication, along with the help of your parents and teachers. Now compare that to all of the imaginable knowledge that exists in the world of which you have not one iota of competence. Add to that the knowledge that exists beyond even your ken, and you'll truly see how little you actually know. With wisdom comes humility, and the sooner you recognize that there will always be someone out there in this world who is bigger, stronger, faster, smarter, or better in any other given regard, the quicker you will come to accept your own strengths and limitations. We all have them. This doesn't mean you're inadequate, just different. And there is nothing wrong with being different. The other key to wisdom is actually putting it into action. Simply accruing it will do you no good. I am living proof of this. For the last 17 years or so since I graduated from high school, I had the first part of the equation down. I asked questions, lots of them, which more often than not, left me satisfied, I asked more questions. And all the while I grew as a person. But the growth was slow and painful. What's worse, for at least 15 of those 17 years, I never put that wisdom into practice. It's almost as if I knew my ideals intimately well, but I didn't live them. And then came the epiphany. About 2 years ago, my personal metamorphosis accelerated. I had a change of heart about the way I lived life. You can ask any of my students in the audience who had me as a freshman in English 1 honors and then was reintroduced to AGE version 2.0 this year in my AP Human Geography class. Sure, they'll tell you I'm so crazy. Rather than throwing copies of To Kill a Mockingbird at file cabinets, I ran rave about the evils of high fructose corn syrup and barked like a dog in ancient Greek. Large. But what's the point of life if you can't find joy in the simplest of moments? They'll also tell you I'm not the same. I stopped focusing on the negative, something else our culture thrives on, and I started only looking at the upside. Not in a naive Pollyanna sort of way, but in a realistic way. Most importantly, I started to believe in myself. It took me 33 years to start doing so, but once I did, I never looked back. Once I started to believe in myself and never worry about what others think of me, my life blossomed. In this flowering, I somehow lost myself and started to focus solely on others. And this is my final recommendation to you. If you put the needs of others before your own, happiness is guaranteed. All you have to do is focus on 5 qualities. They won't cost you any more, and the more you try to give them away, the more you'll find them return to you. They are love, compassion, kindness, generosity, and patience. My students were taken aback a bit this year when I told them I meditate every morning. It's true, every morning the last act I perform is a 30-minute meditation. I often concentrate on those 5 qualities in order to cultivate them in my own life. These are universal attributes. I ask you, who doesn't want to be loved? Is it better to be kind rather than indifferent, or worse yet, rude? Isn't it better to be generous with what you have rather than hoard it for yourself? And couldn't we all be a little more patient with one another? If you approach all of your relationships with every human being with these 5 qualities in mind, there is no barrier that cannot be crossed. The best Christmas gift I received this past December was a simple thank you note from a student that said, "Your class is the most valuable and important class I have ever taken because it has taught me that all people are connected and that the entire world is one community." In my heart, I know all of you realize this. Whether you live each day henceforth by putting that knowledge into action is up to each and every one of you. While it may be true that your generation is entirely too distracted with frivolous pursuits, the one positive testament to millennials hailed by sociologists and psychologists alike is your willingness to collaborate and an appreciation for diversity. Perhaps it will be the millennials who eradicate evils such as discrimination, racism, bigotry, homophobia, and every other spurious reason that divides the human family. One of my personal heroes, Howard Thurman, taught me to never let the dream of unity wane. He was convinced that experiences of unity among peoples are more important and crucial than all the concepts, prejudices, ideologies, and faiths that may divide. And if you can multiply these experiences of unity over a time interval of sufficient duration, you can undermine any barrier that separates one person from another. I believe all of you are capable of this. The years at Durant High School have been a preparation for you to pursue your dreams. And in that pursuit of your passions, you should always remember to do the right thing and strive to be the best human being you can possibly be. It is my ardent hope that each of you will go out into this world and live authentic lives that are healthy and happy. As you leave here tonight, I ask one final request. Always remember that you represent an elite core not only of Durant High School, but the generation. The knowledge and experience you have garnered within these walls will be the foundation of your future wisdom. Use it to fashion a world in which social iniquities and inequalities are only part of a distant past. Above all else, know that you are not simply members of Durant High School's Honor Court. You are potential agents of change.